And a good morning to you, Lagos. You're tuned in and listening to Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. It's about 31 minutes gone past 7, which means it's time to delve into detailed newspaper analysis inside of Freshly Pressed 981. Joining Valentine Ohu and myself in the studio this morning, we've got our Monday analysts. We have Ayo Esho 1. How are you doing, Ayo?
I'm very fine. I had a wonderful weekend.
Excellent. You look like it. You're very dapper this morning.
My team actually took Arsenal into a relegation battle, so that makes me
Wow. I will soon reduce your mic, please. Know that an Arsenal supporter is running the desk. Mind yourself, sir. We've also got Tunde Okufi in the studio, aka Big Koofs. Good morning, Tunde. How are you doing?
Good morning, Folu. I'm good.
Fantastic. Good to have you here with us. All right. Now let's jump into our stories for this morning. Do remember to tweet at us. Use the hashtag FreshlyPress981 to share your thoughts, or send them in to us as well on our WhatsApp number.
Yeah, the WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. That's 0809 444 0981.
Okay, our first story is in from the Punch newspaper, and today I'm coming to you for this one. 2019 polls budget. Saraki hits executive, says it lacks foresight. Now, as we go through the details of this story today, we're seeing a lot of pointing of fingers and really at different people's advisors and aides really doing the finger pointing. Let's be honest, they've just sort of dragged other names in there, I guess, for newspaper headline benefits. But there are a couple of interesting points that are made here. So on the one hand, you've got on the side of Saraki and the Senate, Saraki's special advisor on new media, Olu Onemola, saying that, listen, the executive just showed its lack of foresight. They submitted very late, just a few days before the statutory National Assembly annual recess, and they should have done this earlier on. Why didn't they submit it at the same time as they submitted the appropriation bill when they put that forward? Sort of the general response has been, well, this is a supplementary budget. You can't send a supplementary budget to the National Assembly when the substantive has not been passed. When was that passed? As soon as it was passed, literally the following month was when the supplementary budget went in. What are your thoughts on this newspaper bickering?
Folu, that's absolutely everything that there is to the story that you highlighted. There isn't much else. I wonder why I wonder why they've dedicated. It's inordinately long. I don't know why they've dedicated so much time to it. But it's essentially people having proxy conversations, aides, and aides on this side and on that side just exchanging barbs. And the argument is on the Saraki side is the government lacks foresight. Remember last week there was a disparity in the amount presented by the executive and the and INEC, and they said that understandably would have slowed down approval, but now they're saying you didn't submit it on time. The other guys are saying, how could you have submitted on time? It's a supplement to the original. You can't send a supplement until the substantive one is passed. And so it's back and forth, and we got, and we're here talking about this.
After, so we just sort of move on. That would really be helpful to all of us. We do know that people are still out there trying to get their voters card, so please just go register. Just do the needful, as we say, do the needful. Moving on though, Tunde, still with you for this next one. The Premium Times next. The senators calling for the probe of the National Assembly's budget under Saraki. Now it's federal lawmaker Abdullahi Adamu of APC Nasarawa has called for the probe into the budgetary allocations to the National Assembly. Now this call was again not made in the House. It was made to journalists because, again, newspaper headlines saying that, listen, in view of the fact that the Senate President has refused to vacate his seat after defecting, that we really should, there should be a forensic audit of the finances, because it clearly means that he has something to hide. Goes on to say that as chairman of the National Assembly, there is so much that he's doing that we want to take a look at. So if he's clean, let him move away and accept that there should be a forensic audit of the National Assembly funds under his watch. It's simple. Let him move so that we will see what he is sitting on.
Let's see what he's sitting on. We know that, it's clear from the moment Saraki cross-carpeted, there have been allegations that, they intend to unseat him. And, the shouting from both sides, shouting from his side, saying, oh, these people are conspiring against me, and they want to unseat me. Notably, again, proxies, nobody else, not the man himself.
Exactly.
And then obviously the APC screaming and shouting that he should vacate this seat, let's see what he's sitting on and all that. So this has been going on for a while. So obviously we know that there are plans to do this, and it can't be actualized on the pages of newspapers. They need to do their politicking on the floor, in the House and on the floor, and let's see what it comes to. Now, ideally, you see, what worries me about this statement is you see, the reason why he's asked for an audit of the books and Saraki's expenditures is only because Saraki has defected to another party. I mean, that is just ridiculous. Shouldn't we hold people to a higher standard, and accountability is for everyone at any point, not just when they're in opposition to our views or they've moved to the other side. It's absolutely, I mean, it just goes to show you know, why we are where we are. There should be accountabilities for everyone. It's not a case of, oh, now that he's moved over, suddenly you can see that there, you know, all sorts of, they said all sorts of things have been unearthed daily. What are these things that are unearthed daily that you couldn't, you know, see?
And you know what's painful about this? When this kind of allegations and, you know, this kind of inquiries are being made, we don't take them seriously because we know it's more or less politics.
Yeah,
and it's
and
painful.
they rob the country.
Exactly.
Absolutely. It would be nice to see requests like this happen periodically through the tenure of anybody that would be heading our National Assembly or Senate.
What affiliations you have politically and all that, you know, you should be held responsible, you know.
Absolutely. It would also be nice to see if our politicians would stop this continuous calls for impeachment with just a few months to go to the next elections. It's quite frustrating. Anyways, let's move on. Something that's very frustrating and rather worrying is the actions of the police over protests of Imo women. Now, we've got this in from the Vanguard newspaper. The headline reads, IPOB threatens uprising over alleged detention of Imo women. Now, to give you a little bit of a background story from a story that the Punch actually put out a couple of days ago, even though this one is in particular is in from the Vanguard newspaper. A couple of days ago, women in support of IPOB had been out in the streets in Owerri, in Imo State capital, protesting and demanding for the whereabouts of missing IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu. They were then sort of tear gassed when they got to Government House roundabout in Owerri, and there was a confirmation by the State Commissioner of Police, Dasuki Galadanchi, that confirmed that yes, some of these women had been arrested during the demonstration. Now, in today's story, what we're told is that IPOB have given security operatives the close of business today to release all the Imo State women that have been allegedly arrested during their peaceful protest. Otherwise, they're threatening to cause civil uprising if their demand is not met, because they're saying they are being tortured, and it is just unheard of anywhere in the world that old women or grandmothers would be treated in such a way. Your thoughts, Ayo?
I know the job of the police is not so easy, and I know it's kind of hard to maintain law and order, but when it comes to putting the referendum in the Constitution, because it's not yet in the Constitution, so you need to be tactical about anything you want to do and much confrontation as possible. That's what I believe.
We should probe every government parastatal for equity. And another one here, pretty much, okay, Leo also sent this one. So probing the National Assembly finances like a camel going through the eye of a needle. You can send your messages on Twitter at Smooth981FM. Use that hashtag FreshlyPressed981.
Absolutely. Let's move on to our next story, shall we? This one is up from the Punch newspaper, and the headline reads, Certificate Forgery. No, it's not Kemi Adeosun. We are moving away from that, or just keeping that on the back burner. This one is PDP accusing the APC of a witch hunt over police invitation to Adeleke. Right, that is Senator Ademola Adeleke, and it's over the allegation of a certificate forgery. Now, in a statement that's been signed by its Deputy National Publicity Secretary, Mr. Diran Odeyemi, the PDP accused governor and the APC of using a series of plots to discredit Osun PDP governorship candidate. Odeyemi said that rather than being subdued by the APC's antics, that the PDP was coasting home to victory, saying that Adeleke's popularity validated the clear rejection of the APC and its governorship candidate even ahead of the poll.
All media propaganda, as far as I'm concerned. Everybody's just trying to get into the media now, but let's still come down to the certificates forgery. So the argument is because Osho State was created in 1991, August 27. You say 27th of August. That means Osho State was created on my birthday. I might be governor of Osho State one day. Just watch out. Anyway,
who knows?
And you know, they said issuance of the certificate was 1988. So that was before, and it was stated as though it was created. It was issued in Osho State. So these are the things that they're looking at. But you know, we're talking about how they always, it always looks as though it's when you're on the opposite side that people shout. Either way, actually, because yes, we always make it look as, it's looking as though it's the APC that is doing this, but it's always looking as if it's like that always. This certificate of forgery, if you remember when we were talking about the NYC issue with Kemi Adeosun, I stated here that in 2 weeks' time we'll forget about it. Nobody's talking about it anymore. If, for instance, this issue, this certificate that they're talking about, if he doesn't win tomorrow, nobody's going to investigate him again. But if, in truth, this certificate was forged, you would expect that the investigation should keep going on. But that most likely wouldn't happen. Now, all I just want to say is, I think the best thing is the people of Osho State should sit down and think about who they feel is going to be the best candidate for them during the elections and vote for the right person. I'll be surprised if really he didn't go to secondary school. I'm not saying he didn't, but I'll be surprised, which is a requirement by law. I think it's primary school, right? It's primary school, right?
At the time he was in school, what was the law?
So I think I even think, is it secondary school for governorship? I think it's primary school.
I think it's your school cert. Yeah.
Is it school certificate?
I believe so.
Okay, so it's secondary school.
Required to do certain things.
Yes.
But not required for it to go by law.
Okay.
Wow.
Anyway, so the most important thing is let them vote the right person. If at the end of the day they find out that he's going to be disqualified based on this, then the PDP will still be the one. If PDP wins, will be the one to provide the winner. I think that's going to be the advice. So whichever one, it's the choice of the people, and the two of them should just focus on politicking and stop all this media propaganda.
Thank you very much for that, Ayo. Lagos, continue to send in those messages to our Twitter. Just use the hashtag freshlypressed981, all right? That way we'll be able to read out your messages short and sweet over the airwaves. And, of course, you can send lengthier messages to our WhatsApp number as well. So we're going to take this one in from Steady Hands, who says, come to think of it, who's still talking about the president's certificates? It goes out with time and no one talks about it until you jump ship. Interesting. Let's move on.
Premium Times newspaper has this next story. Disco's faults planned implementation of 72 billion naira distribution network financing initiative through TCN. So apparently, the electricity distribution companies say that the government's plan to implement the 72 billion naira distribution network financing initiative through the Transmission Company of Nigeria will not be in the interest of electricity consumers. Why? They're saying that this, besides the fact that it actually falls outside the legal and regulatory framework or requirements for this kind of funds, that it would cause these distribution companies to fall back on increasing tariffs so they can recoup that loan. Today, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so our power sector is a convoluted mess, especially looking from the outside. It seems like it's only the operators or the people who are speaking about what positions really understand what's going on, and that position keeps shifting. So initially reading through this and looking through this, my initial feeling is that, why do we have so much? No wonder nothing is happening. Why do we have so much red tape? We see the amount of, the regulations and the rules and everything and all the hurdles that the discos were able to point out and say, look, this is the regulation. This is why it shouldn't work. But then an analysis of the arguments they raise, on the other hand, after feeling, maybe this is why things are not working, it just got too much, it's over-regulated, it's just too much red tape. But analysis of the arguments they raise, make it clear that there is merit as well to their position and their points. These guys have invested huge amounts, but it goes beyond the investment. They're saying, look, two things to bring in this investment, to bring in any investment, right? It's like a procurement, right? And there's a reason that any purchase goes through a proper procurement process to make sure you get best value. They're saying that's not going to happen here because naturally it's a government, it's TCN, a legacy company of the PHCN that's involved. So, and they're not going to go through that due process to make sure we actually get value for this money being spent. And it's going to end up on our books, by the way. Then second hand is TCN, TCN itself. Okay, I forget the second point. Maybe I remember. You see how convoluted it is. But those are the issues that we're not going to get a lot of value for this because it's not going to go through the proper procurement process, and then it's going to be managed by TCN, right? Or the process or the project is going to be managed. At that point, it's going to be managed by TCN, an entity that we know has historically, not been efficient in handling projects like this. And it's an arm of government like this. So in effect, aren't we, the worry is that this is almost like going back to the days of, we went through a process of privatization, saying that we need to make things more efficient. Private businesses, or when it's driven by the private sector, it will help cut out all the inefficiencies and things like. So introducing
is going back to the drawing board,
like
back to NEPA.
Bringing back NEPA in a certain way, bringing back government agencies to drive this aspect, or at least to to contribute to it, and they say it's inefficient. The last point I'd like to say is here, where they say to achieve our national economic growth plan, we need to attain an alignment. This is in the power sector. We need to attain an alignment of the gas to power, technical, commercial, and risk frameworks, right? And that's where a lot of the argument is. It says until that is done, until that alignment is achieved, any investments, whether it's 17 billion or anything else, will come to nothing.
Interesting. Interesting. Moving on now to this next story from Guardian newspaper. Northern youths won as Southwest against imposing Buhari in 2019. So, Ayo, the Arawa Youth Consultative Forum, cautioning the Southwest geopolitical zone. Politicians, I'm sure they're talking to them directly, saying they should not dictate to them who to present as presidential candidates in 2019. They said they tried it in 2015. It didn't work. It brought them back here. That they seem to be acting out, a kind of attitude that makes them feel like, you're telling the North or the Northern youth that they do not know who to vote in. So they shouldn't even put it directly to them. So do not impose Buhari on us. We'll know. Give us the liberty to actually choose who we want to.
Please don't give me their liberty. Don't you have the right to vote and be voted for? You know what? It's sometimes when I read this, when I read stuff like this, it's actually fun. First of all, how old is Jerry Mashetima? How is he the president of Iowa Youth? How is he even a youth in the first place?
You see the people leading us, and they're all geriatric.
Yeah, but it's just funny. You see,
so people like him will be
60-something year olds now.
Do you know? And the thing is, what's funny about this is, of course, we know who they're talking about when they're saying that don't impose. So, obviously, from the body language, he's not probably, maybe himself, if he represents the youth of the North for real, they're not supporting, most likely, maybe not, the presidency. Maybe, I'm not sure. It might be for senatorial positions and rep seats. But the fact is, you have the right to vote and be voted for, and so does everybody in the North, and every young person and old person in the North. So even if the Southwest, the leadership of the Southwest, suggests that's the best they can do, nobody's going to put a gun to your head. You can decide not to go with that. So coming on out and...
But let's critically look at the story now. When you look at the story and you see the details and how they are clamoring to, have some form of autonomy to make a decision, would you think that, because now we're getting very close to 2019, everybody's waxing lyrical and talking about their mandate and who they want to push forward. Do you think this is one of those kind of voices that are coming out now to say, you know what, you did not carry us along the past administration?
So they jump in.
Exactly. You're spot on. That's what I was going to say. This is it happens all the time. These are these guys shouting out saying, here I am, don't forget us, and they're positioning, right? You need to we're forced to be reckoned with. Come and sort us out.
Or basically they want to be sure that they're still the one in control and they're the ones calling the shots. That's what they're trying to do.
All right. We've got a few messages very quickly. I'll read a couple of them out up on Twitter. Chika Gino says the whole controversy surrounding the INEC budget still appears like a mystery. From 143 to 189 to 242 billion. We don't know the exact figure. Then became the issue of whether it's supplementary or environment. # budget of commotion. While Anti-Yellow says, I'm afraid that the PDP is correct on this one, talking about Adeleke. Says there's been no word over Kemi Adeosun's certificate forgery, but suddenly police is inviting Adeleke. Hypocrisy, to put it mildly. While Sonia Madu Abuchi is still up on Twitter, says, Ayo, when this Yerima fellow threatened all the Igbos living in the north, he got the backing of the presidency and was not arrested. So why do you think he's not relevant? Interesting. Let's keep it moving.
Keeping it moving from Guardian, also sticking with this paper for this story. Troops nab alleged gunrunner soldier over headers and farmers' crisis. So they've nabbed a couple of people. One was arrested as a civilian. His name, Ahmed Sani. He was arrested on July 21, 2018. The soldier implicated in this, one corporal, Ibrahim Idris, they said the Office of National Security Advisor has said that that soldier and another suspect, that's the Ahmed Sani, they've both been arrested in Jos Plateau State by a special task force for criminal activities, including inciting recent herders and farmers' clashes in the middle belts. They said today that they've been supplying them weapons for a long time, and then they even broke some cells of Boko Haram in this story.
So in this story we have a soldier, we have a criminal, that's a armed robber, a criminal extraordinary, armed robber, kidnapper, everything. It's like they've labeled him with it. And then we have a policeman, and the story highlights a part to this crisis, as we like to describe it, the herdsman's crisis, that is often neglected. The truth is, these herdsmen don't arm themselves, and from all the stories and from all the reports and the incidents that happened, we know that they're not walking around. Often they go around with assault rifles.
Yes.
They're not walking around with locally manufactured arms and guns. So someone is equipping them, and anytime there's a conflict, which is part of the reason why there are conflicts all across the world, someone profits. Now these guys are lower, down the chain. There are people, the higher ups as well, who profit. But the side as to where they get the arms, is really focused on. And from this story, it's coming from the government ultimately.
Yes.
Right, because these are soldiers and policemen. I mean, this policeman was caught in a sting operation after Sani had already been arrested. So they set up a sting for
and
his
information led
sources.
to his arrest.
Yes, and then he was arrested while he was supplying arms to Sani, not knowing, Sani had, was now, an informant, so to say, working on the other side.
Right.
So, so if you're getting arms from a policeman, you're getting arms from a soldier, where are the arms coming from? Ultimately, the government, which is very unfortunate. So all of these things need to be highlighted, and the people responsible, or people who are profiting from this, need to be brought to book, and the thing needs to. We need to curb it. It mentions a bunch of things. The story, at least this story, tries to say Sani is, solely responsible for, everything, the feud between the Fulanis, herdsmen, and of course that's this stretch.
Obviously not.
Right. It's like hanging, it's like hanging everything on, the one
convenient scapegoat.
Exactly, the convenient scapegoat. And yes, you also mentioned the Boko Haram cells broken down, which is good. Those efforts need to continue. It also mentions UNICEF receiving 24 teenagers who they believe had previously worked for Boko Haram and had found their way back to out of Boko Haram's grasp.
Thank you very much, Tunde, for that analysis. Now, final story from Guardian newspaper. Oyo government demolishes Ayefele's 800 million naira radio station. This news trended yesterday. They said, according to them, the Oyo State government yesterday demolished the music house, is what it's called, in Oyo State, a building belonging to popular juju musician Yinka Ayefele, along Challenge Tollgate Expressway that houses Fresh FM station in Ibadan. And Ayefele, on his part, actually claimed that the property that was pulled down around 4:30 a.m. was worth about 800 million naira. But according to this story, it said they had issued him notice to bring down that building because he didn't get authorization to bring it up higher.
Okay, I'm not in any way an urban or regional planning person, but I know I know where that place is in Ibadan. I've visited it. For those of us that were into music in the western region, other than Lagos, that used to be like the hub, because especially for live recording, that was just the perfect place to go to. And it looks so far away from the road, so I don't know exactly how that is done. But what's one thing that we always need to know before I started building? I mean, that was when I went there was 2007. That's 11 years to now, and I'm wondering why they had to wait until June when they claimed that they actually gave the notice. And one thing that is also funny in this news is they addressed the fact that in June 14, 2017, they gave out the notice, but they didn't mention the fact that the case was in court and it was adjourned to today, which is August 20.
Wow.
And they were told to hold on it. They went 4:30 in the morning.
Before they opened shop.
Before they opened shop. Now they demolished it with the equipment in there. Iwapa niye. I said it in Yoruba. You understand? Iwapa, because it's
wicked behavior.
Yes, because I there's no way. I'm sorry. I try not to be as prejudiced as possible, but when you go 4:30 on the weekend to perpetrate something like this,
It's deliberate.
It's deliberate, and you do it with equipment in there.
But let's look at it this way. The Commissioner for Information, Culture and Tourism, when he was contacted, that's Toye Arulogun, he said in a statement that the property owners deviated from the originally approved building plans without seeking approval from the State's Bureau for Fiscal Planning and Demolition. And say it's not unique to that music house. They even affected the University of Ibadan, Kola Desi University, University College Hospital, banks and radio stations. They were all asked to provide their plan.
They demolished the rest.
So, for argument's sake, let's assume, for argument's sake, that really they did not get the right approvals.
Yeah.
The case is in court. They were told to hold on because they were in the court. The quotes that they said was that the case is in court, and there were serious issues to be determined. So they were told to hold on and reconvene on the 20th of August so they can deliberate on it in court. It's the height of impunity, and this is.
Only very quickly, only one thing comes to mind, and the question is, who has he offended? Because if in the end this costs us money, right? Because they've gone against a court order, which means that this man there's recourse to justice and he can get compensation, right? So it is more like you begin to wonder: is it a grudge? It feels more like a grudge. Someone settling a grudge and not necessarily, following process, proper process would have been to wait for the
And you know what's painful about this holistically, if you look at it, if he's going to go to court and then seek redress for this, he's going to be compensated. He's going to be suing the government, not Ajimobi. And then it's going to be taxpayers. Exactly. The taxpayers' money is going to be paid. Now, what I always say is, how do we hold this people in government accountable for this kind of acts? Because what's going to happen is, at the end of the day, we'll pay him off, and that's it.
No, let's not preempt what the court's decisions will be today. I guess we'll wait to see.
It should be through the court, which is why once more, National Assembly, can you please empower our judiciary so people, as you vote, think about the things you want to ask your government to do for you, such as making sure that the judiciary is empowered and is truly autonomous, so that when things like this happen, you actually have recourse. Just like that, we've come to the end of Freshly Pressed for this morning, though. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll round up with a couple of messages. Chika Jino says the demolition of Music House by the Oyo State government is another example of the high-handedness of the Ajimobi government. Despite the fact that the matter is in court and is scheduled to be heard later today, yet that building was brought down at 4 a.m. yesterday, repeating again what you had said. This one is in from Chris, who says impunity. That is what Nigeria is getting all over from the government. And this final bit is in from Yinka, who says it's not news anymore that Governor Ajimobi is very petty. You all saw the way that Lautech students ridiculed him and how he handled the Olubadan issue. We are not surprised. Very sad stuff. Thank you to everyone who's been watching and listening. Keep listening, though, because coming up next at 8:15, we are going to be talking about sports inside the locker room. Thank goodness we will not have Ayo there, so there will be no bashing of Arsenal this morning, at least not on the airwaves. Maybe you can send in your messages using the hashtag LockerRoom981.
Good morning.
Trying to stress me out. I saw 29 minutes in.